Well, I'm sorry I don't speak French very well.
But a little.
Just embarrass myself. I took French as a child in middle school for 4 years.
Yeah?
So I can kind of read it and understand it. Okay.
Oh.
But I can't.
So
if I spoke it, it would be embarrassing.
But if I have a problem with, with one word, you can help me.
Yes, I can
That's
try.
That's great.
I speak Italian.
Oh, but I don't.
No. But it's similar in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah. You wrote 2 books, 2 novels,
and
I've written
one
2
novels.
essay, San Francisco Noir.
Yes.
Noir in French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noir. It's a French. Yeah, it comes from French.
What did you say?
My name is Nathaniel Rich. I'm a writer from New York City. I live in New Orleans now. I've published 2 novels. Odds Against Tomorrow is appearing in French. I write essays also about literature and film, and I also do some journalism. And, yeah, primarily a novelist.
Yeah, you would say that.
Yeah.
So you were born in New York, I guess?
I was born in New York, yeah, 1980.
And now you live in New Orleans?
Yeah. I felt like it was time for me to leave, that I wanted to live and work in a different place.
And my question was also, but it's ironic, but you know irony when we read your book, but you were in New York, and I know you didn't write it because of that, because you wrote your novel before Sandy, but now you live in New Orleans and there were Katrina, so we can't think about that.
It's very strange. I mean, yeah, I finished the novel I was editing the final proofs of the novel right when Sandy hit in 2012, and yeah, and I moved to New Orleans 5 years after Katrina, and it did affect the way I wrote the novel. I mean, I had finished, a draft by the time I moved to New Orleans, but living in the city, especially for the final third of the novel, which takes place after a flood, living in a city that had gone through that, and that the trauma of the experience was still, you encountered every day, I mean you still do 10 years later, was instructive for me, and it changed the way I conceived of the final section of the book. I rewrote the final section. Sandy did not inform the novel because it had occurred after I wrote it. But it was a funny thing. I mean, in the U.S., when the book was published in 2013, it was right after Sandy, and the first question I would get in any interview or on a book tour was, "Oh, is this your fictionalization of Sandy? Is this your novel about Sandy?" And I'd have to explain that no, it takes me about 5 years to finish a novel, and it was done already. But I think the storm had followed so closely what all of the sort of scientific predictions. I think literature is a place where I don't think it can be very useful in advocating for policy change or political change, but I think it is a place where we can start to make sense of what it means to live at a time when this is happening, and to understand how it affects our individual lives. It gets back to the same question of how does any individual respond to this, and so that's something I want to write about. It's there in the novel, but it's not. I mean, I never talk about. There's no mention of climate change or global warming. I think increasingly there'll be more and more novels that try to ask these questions, but they don't exist yet, really.
And we will call it Seattle Generation.
Yeah, Generation Seattle.
As Mitchell.
I know. Well, Seattle is in trouble with the earthquake. That has nothing to do with climate change, but.
Yeah, but Mitchell belongs to the so-called Seattle Generation.
Yeah, exactly.
But you said I don't want to answer questions, I want to ask questions, and I think something is very important in your book, in the structure of your book. It's written in a third person by, I don't remember his newspaper, Wall Street Journal journalist. Yeah. Who knew Mitchell as a college student. Is it important for you that everything stays from the outside in a way, and it's also inside, but ambiguity is the most important, if you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think there is some ambiguity, but I think it's more ambivalence.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and that it's more opposing ideas, and the characters sort of have different ideas about things, and they kind of switch places at a certain point. But yeah, I think for a novel to be successful, or a novel like this to be successful, there has to be a very sort of strong polarity of ideas, meaning that there have to be opposing views that are both expressed very clearly and strongly and passionately on either side. And if it's only on one side, then it becomes dogmatic and sort of bad literature. But I think with any difficult issue, there usually aren't clear answers. And so what's important is creating a way in which to engage these questions at a high level, and hopefully in new ways. And I think the characters all grapple with these ideas, and come out with different conclusions. But I think that's true of all of us as human behaviors, that there are lots of reasonable conclusions to draw about, something like environmental anxieties. Like, well, is the right thing to do to go work for Greenpeace and blockade an oil company, or should we just focus on providing for our own families, or should we just be in the middle and kind of recycle a lot? Or I don't think there's one correct answer, and I think we all have to make these decisions for ourselves. But what's important is to understand that we are making decisions, and that's where I think there's a role for literature to play. That literature creates a kind of when I read a novel that I really respond to, admire, I find what happens is it allows for sort of counterintuitively for a kind of introspection. It allows for me to think more about how I think, to examine my own thoughts, and so I think good literature, great literature works that way. Yes, it creates these fictional situations, and it brings something to it, but it also allows the reader to bring his own understandings to it. It allows for reflection. So that's my hope for the novel, that it can cause some reflection. But I don't intend to tell people what conclusions they should reach.
And there are something important for that. It's irony and humor.
Yeah, I think it's important to. If I read a book that is humorless, I tend to lose interest. I think, and part of the fun of this subject is that there's sort of an inherent black comedy in any discussion of disaster. I think there's this fine line between comedy and horror. They both sort of use surprise and high stakes situations. But you kind of can come down on either side of it. And so I think in the novel I was hoping that sometimes you come down on the side of horror, but sometimes you come down on the side of comedy. And of course there's something just humorous about a character obsessing about all kinds of worst case scenarios that may never come to pass. And it's also, I think it's human also just to find humor in dark places. And so that was important to maintain that in the novel.
Yeah, and fun and fear.
There's something fun about. Also there's fun in obsessing about terrifying things, because it's almost a form of distraction sort of you're entertaining yourself, because when you obsess about some super volcano in Yellowstone, you're not obsessing about your own personal problems and the things in your own private life that are bothering you. So there's a kind of distraction that you're engaging in. And then Mitchell also grapples with this. Like, he's obsessed about all these sort of public scenarios, but then he loses track of his own private life. I think, and we all tend to do that, or I tend to do that at least to some extent.
So you speak about you. I saw on your Twitter account, you write, so the sentence above your account, soon all sorts of strange things will come.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean?
That's from that's a Wasco, that's in the novel. It's I think it's the Wasco tribe. It's an Indian tribe prophecy that just stuck with me. I don't know, I like that idea. Just the sense that we don't really know what's coming, but we know it will be a surprise, but it put very kind of poetically by the tribe, I think.
Yeah, and strange things, is it also your next books? Could you tell us something about your next novel? Because
my first novel.
No, the next one.
The future one.
Yes, the future one. You're writing
yes, I can't say that much about it, but there's a sort of noir quality, and it's a historical novel, which is not something I ever expected to do, but it is, and there's. Let's see, there's a sort of about man's reconfiguration of the natural world to suit his own specifications as part of it. There's also a murder mystery and a bunch of other things. But it's, I can't really speak about it yet because it's not ready, and I don't want to, jinx anything. But I'm getting very close, and I'm excited about it, but still probably a couple of years away.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You don't write in the night.
No,
you see Sandy in the news and you write it. So
I know. I don't want it to take. My first novel took me 6 years. This took me 5 years. I'm hoping the next one I get at least down to 4.
To 4.
It shouldn't take that long. I don't like that it takes that long. I feel like it shouldn't take that long, but things happen, delays happen that are often out of your control.